Not all historical artifacts are made equal, and sometimes innocent-looking items tend to come with curses attached. I'm talking about everything from beds to artwork, jewels, and more, so I hope you're ready for today, and maybe just cleanse the air now before we get started. Well, kicking things off, the fabulously ornate Great Bed of Ware does not want the likes of you sleeping in it. This lavish oak bed is richly decorated with carved figures and a lot of beautiful scenes, and is so big it is rumored to comfortably sleep 4 couples. Allegedly, the bed was made in the 15th century for King Edward by carpenter Jonas Fosbrook, but throughout the years found itself being passed between the inns of Ware, where commoners were able to sleep in it and cover it in graffiti. The disrespect and defacing of this regal item angered the ghost of Fosbrook, who now attacks any commoner who sleeps in the bed that he made for noble lineage only. This great bed is quite possibly the most famous bed in British history and has been mentioned in several literary works, including Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, Byron's Don Juan, and more. So y'all ever hear about Mummy's Curse? Okay, not actually a mummy, but the mummy board or coffin lid of an unknown high-status woman from the 21st or 22nd dynasty. The British Museum's unlucky mummy has earned quite the reputation for causing destruction through its ancient curse. So this mysterious being was found at Thebes in the late 1800s, and tales of its curse started soon after that. It's said that of the 4 young Englishmen who bought it, 2 died in incidents, and a couple folks died in poverty. A string of illnesses, accidents, and deaths following this are all said to be attributed to the mummy. So leave mummy alone. At a whopping 105 carats, the Koh-i-Noor diamond might look beautiful, but this reportedly cursed gemstone has a bit of a dark side. The diamond once belonged to the ferocious Sikh Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who died during the Anglo-Sikh Wars, leaving his young son, Dulip, as the last Maharaja of the empire. Now, when the East India Company seized control over the empire, Dulip was kidnapped by the British Crown and exiled to Britain, where he was adored by Queen Victoria, who became godmother to several of his descendants, including Princess Sophia, who went on to become a prominent suffragette. The infamous precious stone was also taken by the British Crown and is part of the British Crown jewels to this day, but legend. And the stone's tumultuous origins have earned it the reputation of causing death and misfortune to any male who owns it. Well, apparently since being owned by the British royal family, it's only ever been worn by gals for safety. Let's keep it that way. Within Roman military history, the Greco-Roman Ballista was a weapon similar to the crossbow, but at a larger scale, which fired arrows or stones. In 1989, archaeological works were being carried out on the Israeli-Syrian border. These ballista balls were found alongside what appeared to be the remains of a ballista. Well, a couple years later, in 1995, some ammunition of the Roman war artifact was stolen from the site, but the theft wasn't noticed. Time passed, and in 2015, several rock balls that matched the ones found in the diggings appeared in the courtyard of a museum with a note. This note, supposedly written by the thief, stated that after stealing the balls, he had experienced profound bad luck, and he believed them to be cursed. Unofficial reports claim that among the calamities the person describes in his note, he comments that ruin fell upon him, as he had a prosperous business that ended suddenly when those rocks came into his life. It is also said that sometime later his family abandoned him, and he was forced to get rid of many other possessions to settle debts and avoid bankruptcy until he realized the origin of his problems. Get rid of them. The Vine Ring, or the Ring of Sylvanus, is a gold ring dating probably from the 4th century AD, and it was discovered in a plowed field near Silchester in Hampshire, England in 1785. It's unknown how the ring came to be located at the Vine, but it is presumed that the farmer who found the ring sold it to the family, who are known to have an interest in history and antiquities. Well, in 1888, the owner of the property, Challoner Chute, wrote about the ring in the history of the house. Turns out in 1929, the archaeologist Sir Mortimer Wheeler was excavating at the Litany site and made a connection between the ring bearing the name of, you know the name, and the cursed stone bearing the same name. Who'd he call upon? J.R.R. Tolkien, as professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford University, to investigate the etymology of the name referred to in the curse. So you know Lord of the Rings? Welcome to its origins. Also, Roman tablets are found to contain references to the artifact, informing the god Nodens that the ring had been stolen. In the tablet, the former owner of the ring proclaims that whoever has taken the ring shall find themselves in bad health until it is given back to its owner. So just give it back. One of the most famous examples of haunted art throughout history is the cursed portrait of Spanish military leader Bernardo de Galvez. Possibly made by Salvador Maella, the painting appears like a typical portrait, but the way it was painted produces a certain discomfort for anybody who ends up appreciating this work of art. So this cursed artifact depicts Bernardo, born in the city of Malaga, Spain on July 23rd of 1746, who died under strange circumstances on November 30th of 1786. So he was famous for helping the American colonies during the War of Independence of the United States. This painting is located at the Galvez Hotel in Galveston, Texas, a place whose fame is, well, directly related to, you guessed it, ghosts and other paranormal phenomena. There is a group of spirits that tend to inhabit the hotel, and the most intriguing and terrifying stories tend to take place around this lovely little portrait. The painting is located at the end of a corridor inside the hotel, where the portrait's eyes are said to follow passing guests. If you get too close to this work of art, you're going to feel freezing cold or uncomfortable. There's even those who claim that Bernardo himself comes down from the cursed item and follows you around the hotel. The haunted reputation of this portrait naturally represents an attraction for tourists trying to take a picture of the painting, but you're not going to get a clear image of it unless you request permission from the man himself. Inside the Baker Mansion in Altoona, USA is the wedding dress of Anna Baker, who fell in love with an ironworker. Legends claim that she eloped from her home to get married to her lover, but her father forcefully brought her back and locked her in her bedroom. She then refused to marry anybody else and spent the rest of her life alone. So after her death, the members of the Baker family reported spotting her wedding dress at a lot of different places just around the house. Some folks even saw the spirit of Anna herself moving around the house dressed in her wedding dress. So sad. The Burton Agnes Hall in Burton Agnes, England is home to a creepy paranormal object called the Screaming Skull. Now this is believed to be the skull of Catherine Ann Griffith, who died in the same house after being attacked by bullies in 1620. Every night, a terrifying ghost is seen roaming around the skull, making tremendous noise and scaring out everybody who tries to touch it. Or worse yet, take it away. This next item, popularly known as Busby's stoop chair, it is a wooden piece of furniture that is cursed by the spirit of Thomas Busby, who was known to ruthlessly kill people. Before meeting the rope necklace for his crimes, he requested to have a meal in his favorite local pub, and upon finishing said meal, he stood and said, "May sudden death come to anybody who dares sit on my chair." And ever since then, 63 people who dared to sit on said chair met untimely and terrifying deaths. I'm sorry, somebody out there waited until the death toll got to 63 before thinking, maybe there's something wrong. I don't know. I feel like that link should have been noticed by death number 20. Later on in history, the owner of the pub donated the chair to the museum, and it's still there. It's hanging about 1.5 to 2 meters off the ground. Why? Well, we don't want any further deaths. I don't know. I don't think that's high enough. People will still find a way. Maybe up on the ceiling, or just put it in a box forever. And finally for today, for centuries a common wedding gift given to brides of royalty and wealth were these intricate and expensive vases. Back in the 12th century, the Duchess Eleanor of Aquitaine gifted her husband-to-be, King Louis, a rock crystal vase. So it wasn't unusual when a woman in the 15th century received a vase as a wedding gift, except it was silver, plain looking. There was no intricate markings, no lavish decorations, and it didn't appear to be expensive, but it contained a curse that would continue to take lives for the next 5 centuries. Not much is known about the woman who originally received the vase way back then, other than her wedding took place in a northern village close to Italy. The stories say she didn't know who gifted her the 4-pound silver vase, but she took it to her room for safekeeping. And when the wedding was about to start, nobody could find her. Her husband-to-be searched for her and found her in her room, lying on the ground, clutching the vase with a fierce grip before passing away just moments later. Well, at her funeral, the now Bassano vase was given to one of her family members for safekeeping. But within days, they were also dead. At the time, nobody thought the vase was the cause of it, and they gave it to somebody else. Yeah, anybody want to guess? You guessed it. A couple days later, they croaked. The family finally put 2 and 2 together and reached out to a priest for guidance, under the belief that whoever gifted the bride the vase put a curse on it, or had it made with cursed materials. They were instructed to bury it on sacred grounds. Well, a lot of folks believed it was buried near the same church where the priest resided, but it's not exactly known where it was buried, since it stayed clear of the history books for around 500 years. In 1988, an unnamed man happened to dig up the vase, and within it found a note reading, "Beware, this brings death." He ignored the note, tossed it away, brought the vase to an auction house. Yep, those who ignore history, doomed to repeat it. It was sold to a local pharmacist for the equivalent of $2,000 in today's money. Well, 3 months later, the pharmacist had passed, and his family sold the vase to a doctor, who also passed away. Yep, deja vu. Here we go. So at this point, the reputation was coming back. Nobody wanted to buy it, minus one archaeologist, who, 3 months later, died from an unknown and mysterious infection. The family was kind of freaked out. They tossed it out of a window, then a cop found it, tried to give it to museums, and all of them were like, nope, nope, nope. To this day, no one knows where it is anymore. A switch housed in a New Orleans museum is a reminder of the mysterious case of a man who was apparently raised from the dead. In 1962, a Haitian farmer checked into a hospital where he began coughing up redness. Doctors weren't super sure what was wrong with him, and his condition continued to worsen until he passed away 3 days after being admitted. His grief-stricken family buried him and mourned the sudden death with no obvious answers. But about 18 years later, in the year 1980, the man's sister was walking down a road when she spotted a disheveled man who claimed to be her brother. Obviously, she didn't believe him. She'd seen her brother die. She watched him be buried. But the man in front of her looked like her brother, told her things about when they grew up together, including his nickname for when they were really young. And the mystery deepened. How had he been raised from the dead? Her brother said he'd been given a voodoo potion that made him appear dead. And he'd actually been conscious but paralyzed during the entire time the family prepared for his funeral. After his death, he was dug up and forced into work on a sugar plantation, where he worked until the owner died and he could escape. Bela Lugosi reigned supreme as one of the world's most famous horror movie actors. However, did you know he actually had some personal interest in the occult? He was known to practice a form of clairvoyance that involved staring intensely at inanimate objects to receive messages from spirits. One of the objects of these clairvoyance exercises was a mirror that Bela Lugosi kept in his Hollywood Hills home. Bela's home was purchased by one Frank Selettri, who was killed in his home. Ooh, little cursed. Bela Lugosi's mirror is now housed in a museum of haunted items in Las Vegas, donated after the niece of Frank Selettri inherited said mirror. The niece claimed that paranormal activity increased in her home after obtaining the mirror, feeling bites on her neck, seeing dark silhouettes reflected in it. Can I steal the mirror? Kevin Manus bought a box at an estate sale in 2001 and immediately started having nightmares about an evil hag, and so did any friends that stayed with him. He decided, hey, I'm just gonna give this to my mom. She suffered a stroke, same day. After that, the box got passed on, and the later owners have also claimed that the Dybbuk, which is the spirit contained in the box, has appeared in their nightmares as well. The last known owner was Jason Haxton, director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine, who not only had nightmares, but developed a strange skin disease and began coughing up red fluids. At that point, Haxton contacted his local rabbis, sealed the spirit back in the box, and then hid it from the world with the help from a museum archivist friend. Don't go digging it up. If you find it, leave it in the ground. While the American South is renowned for its hospitality, it does have a dark history connected to plantation, superstition, and human exploitation. One very famous plantation was the Myrtle Plantation, with a rumored 10 deaths occurring in that household. And while the home itself is believed to be haunted, today we're talking about one particular artifact, the Plantation Mirror. Now, mirrors house their fair share of superstitions. Generally, you'd cover a mirror with a cloth after somebody's passed, but when somebody passed on this place, they forgot to cover this one up. And it is rumored that the uncovered mirror now holds the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her 2 daughters. And while we think they died of yellow fever, legend has it, they were poisoned with cake. Dubbed the Devil's Rocking Chair, this chair is of unknown origin, but it belonged to the Gladsell family in the early 1950s. The horrors began in July of 1980 when David Gladsell was possessed by a demon. He would wake up screaming in the night, claiming he had been visited by a man with big black eyes, a thin face with animal features, jagged teeth, pointed ears, horns, hooves, and everybody was like, okay, yep, nope. You're saying the truth, because David was not the kind of person who liked scary movies. He didn't like to make things up, and he was very visibly shaken by this. He became withdrawn, quiet. Desperate for help, the family called renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. They began making regular visits, bringing priests with them. They performed exorcisms, and a lot of these exorcisms took place while David was seated in the rocking chair. The chair itself moved about the house on its own. It was mysterious. It would disappear, reappear, move around the house. It would levitate, and folks saw it levitate, so we've got enough witnesses. One time in particular, it was the final exorcism when the demon left David, and he was like, okay, I'm getting better. But Arn Johnson, also present, was like, hey, get out of him, come into me. And he got possessed. He started making the same kind of growls and hisses that David had made, as well as slipping into trances for a period of months before killing his landlord. 8 months go by, Johnson appeared in a court with a plan to enter a plea of not guilty due to demonic possession. And for the first time in American legal history, this was used as a reason for killing somebody. Didn't work though. But for many years after the horrifying events, the rocking chair remained in storage. When the family later moved, it went with them, but over time they were like, yeah, something's wrong with that chair. Whoever sat in it, whether innocently or because they knew its strange history, was suddenly stricken with sciatica or abnormal back problems. Some folks even needed surgery. One close member was unable to walk upright more than 10 years after testing the legend of the chair. So be careful where you sit. No one could have known that a photograph that was taken of Bill Stoneham when he was in his youth would go on to become one of the most famous cursed paintings in history. So when he was young, he played with a little girl from the neighborhood, and one day his parents had, both of them pose in front of a glass door for a photo. Flash forward 1972, Bill's first wife, Roan, wrote a poem called Hands Resist 'Em. It was about Bill's experience of being adopted, never knowing his biological siblings, and at the time the couple lived in California. Bill was under contract with his art studio, where he had to produce 2 paintings each month, making $200 each, which we like. He was strapped for inspiration and was like, hey, I'll just paint that. Called the painting The Hands Resist 'Em, turned it over to Charles Feingarten for a large gallery show in 1974 with the accompanying poem, and at the show the painting was purchased by actor John Marley, most famous for his role as the movie producer in The Godfather, who wakes up with the horse's head in his bed. The gallery show also led to the painting's first press mention, when it was reviewed by noted art critic Henry Seldes. This is all important, I promise, because this is where things get strange. Between 1978 to 1984, 3 of the men closest to the painting died. Seldes in 1978, Feingarten in 81, and Marley in 84. The painting disappeared from public view after Marley's death, and it would be about 26 years before Bill heard about his painting again. It was in the year 2000. It resurfaced in a listing on eBay. The family selling it claimed that the boy and the doll in the painting were fighting. They were coming out of the painting at night, and these details proved to be a huge draw for online buyers. The listing was viewed more than 30,000 times, and some viewers even complained to the seller about experiencing supernatural occurrences after just looking at the listing. They claimed to hear voices in their homes. They became ill. Somebody blacked out. By the time the painting was sold to gallery owner Kim Smith for over $1,000, its legend had spread across the internet. The Stagecraft painting is an adaptation of another photograph. This was taken by commercial photographer James Kidd. And the photo was taken of a wooden cart and the figure of a man without a head, and it was only really found after the picture was developed. There was no evidence of it being tampered with. The artist who painted the painting was drawn to the photograph and just felt like she had to. Her oil painting of the photograph was hung in her home, and that's where things get ooky spooky. She claims it was responsible for a mysterious leak, objects being knocked over, broken items, even mysterious knocks on doors. Laura's had many offers to buy the painting, but she doesn't really want to inflict that on anybody else. The seemingly sweet painting of Samantha Houston has a dark story behind it. Samantha is believed to be the daughter of a senator in Texas, and her father brought her to stay at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin with him in 1887, where she unfortunately fell down the stairs while playing with her ball, and since then her ghost is said to haunt the Driscoll where she died. Her painting, completed by one Richard King, was hung in the hotel where she passed away and has focused the spirit's alleged activity. A bouncing ball can often be seen in the hotel lobby, door handles beside the painting rattle, and her expression seems to distort as guests view the painting. Also, some folks feel nauseous around it, they feel a falling feeling. I'm just not gonna make eye contact. It's hard to get more iconic than James Dean and his silver sports car. Porsche 550 Spider cars were some of the fastest cars at the time of being manufactured, but they were also notoriously temperamental. They'd crumple like an aluminum can in a crash. And sadly, that's what happened to James Dean on his way to a car race in 1955. The car was auctioned and sold in parts, but owners of these auto pieces have reported fires, car crashes, mysterious injuries, the whole kit and caboodle. What was left of the car still toured and had its fair share of mishaps along the way. However, after an exhibition in Miami, the towing van and the car disappeared in 1960. In the chilling case of the Perron family, their seemingly serene farmhouse in Rhode Island concealed a dark and malevolent secret. Soon after moving in, there was strange stuff going on. At first, they kind of wrote it off. They're like, okay, weird stuff. Brooms were moving on their own. People were seeing apparitions. Carolyn Perron, determined to uncover the truth, delved into the history of the house and discovered a whole lineage plagued by mysterious and tragic deaths spanning 8 generations. The most ominous presence was that of Bathsheba Sherman, a woman associated with witchcraft. Bathsheba's malevolent intentions became kind of evident as the family's life was spiraling into a nightmare. There was one incident where Carolyn had a really weird wound on her calf that resembled something you would like sew with. And this was just one of many episodes endured by the Perron family over their decade-long time living in the house. Who'd they call in? Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're like, oh yeah, there's something going on here. They identified a cursed artifact, a mysterious box. They believed it acted as a conduit for Bathsheba's demonic energy in the household. So when they were like, okay, we're gonna fix this, they performed blessings, grabbed the box, and got the heck out of there.
The Screaming Skull of what? That sounds like a horror film right off the bat. Let's talk about it. The Screaming Skull of Burton Agnes Hall is a legend surrounding an English county house in Yorkshire. Yeah, as you could guess, it's terrifying. The story goes that Anne Griffith, one of the daughters of Sir Henry Griffith, who built the hall back in the 17th century, well, she was attacked and mortally wounded. Now, before meeting her sad demise, Anne had one request. She asked for her head to be kept inside the house forever. Just the head, just that one head, just that's it. The rest of her doesn't matter. Just the cool, awesome. When it was removed, supernatural disturbances occurred until the skull was eventually returned to its rightful place, I want to say. It's said that if the skull is removed, eerie noises and disturbances plague the hall. So, yeah. Oh, I shouldn't touch the mummy head from the 17th century? Ah, damn it. I always thought I could poke it. Easy. Number 9, Peck Island. A cursed island. How does that even happen? That's almost impressive. Peck Island, located in the Detroit River near Windsor, Ontario, revolves around the story of Hiram Walker. Walker was a Canadian entrepreneur who owned the island in the late 19th century, and legend has it that Walker planned to build a grand mansion on the island, but it was quickly thrown off its course by a series of misfortunes and tragedies, all of which is believed to be a part of this island curse. Now, the mansion was never completed, of course, and the island is now known for its ghost stories and tales of buried treasure. Yeah, you can't tell me that. You can't be like, oh, the island's cursed and forbidden, but also there's treasure there, so I don't know, may the odds be ever in your favor, I guess. Good luck. Number 8, Bela Lugosi's Mirror. Best known for his role as Count Dracula, haunting off the bat, this mirror reportedly belonged to Lugosi, and it is said that he gazed into it frequently. Of course he did. It's a mirror. That's the only thing you can do. That's not exactly the crazy part. The crazy part here is after his death, the mirror is believed to have passed through various hands, with each owner experiencing disturbing occurrences, suggesting that the mirror may in fact be haunted. A haunted mirror, you're like, ah, it's me, it's my face. I just roasted myself, I guess. These events have led to a legend that Lugosi's spirit, or something connected to him, is stuck inside the mirror. Do we break it and then release him? Do we not break it? Is that bad luck? What do we even do at this point? I don't know. Do you believe in a haunted mirror? Just cover it up. Problem solved. Put a doily over it. I'm like, I'm good. Number 7, Haunted Chairs of Belcourt Castle. Haunted chairs, that's awesome. That sounds like the haunted mansion in real life, zipping around your house. That's amazing. The Haunted Chairs of Belcourt Castle in Newport, Rhode Island. They have a history of paranormal lore, if you want to call it that. That's the lore right there. A chair moves sometimes. It's a safety hazard really at this point. Watch your step. Built in 1894 by Oliver Hazard Perry Belmont, a really long name, the castle is known for its collection of antiques and artifacts, all that smell incredibly great and old and dusty and horrible to breathe in, including several chairs that are said to be super haunted. Everything else is just old and fine, but the chair's demon in that chair for sure. Visitors and staff have reported feeling a force pushing them out of these chairs, which I know must be frightening when you're sitting there, but when I think of that, it's hilarious. It's now a cartoon. Whoa! Baker's Haunted Wedding Dress. Normally wedding dresses are reminders of the best day of your life, right? You look at it, you're like, yes, I was there, we're in love, awesome. At least that's what they're supposed to feel like. When it comes to the Baker's wedding dress, there's nothing but terror. Yeah, all in those laces right there. You zip it up, it's horrible in the back. In 1849, Anna Baker, a rich young gal from rich Pennsylvania family, fell in love with a low-class iron worker. And her father did not want her to marry a man from the lower class, because how dare she do that, right? Ugh. He forbid the wedding, all that stupid old stuff, but unbeknownst to the father, Anna had already bought a dress. She was excited, she was in love, she was committed, alright? It was the 1800s, so there was for sure a no-return policy, so Anna remained single until the end of her days. She died in 1914, and rumor has it, she passed away with that very same wedding dress still in her arms. Now after that, the house was turned into a museum, because why, of course, and the dress is now said to move on its own within its display case, supposedly manifesting Anna's restless and unhappy spirit. It's amazing. There's a floaty dress. It's like a Spider-Man villain. That's the scariest one so far. Number 5, Robert the Evil Doll. First of all, Robert, it's not a scary doll name, but don't let it fool you, okay? This guy here, just as bad as Annabelle. A man named Rob Otto, he was given a doll that looked a lot like him, all right? This is how the story begins. You know how you get a doll that looks like you? Sure, that happens all the time. One of his servants who didn't like him made this doll for him. Yeah, you already know where I'm going with this one. It was a voodoo doll, right? Of course. Why would you accept this? This is obviously a trap. Neighbors would hear Robert talking to this doll. Robert and Robert, the podcast. Tune in. Awesome. Now, after Robert's death, the new owners of the house found that same doll in the attic, still there. Well, actually, their daughter found it. It was a pretty jarring experience. The family was haunted by this doll for years. They would hear threats coming from it. They would talk to them at night. Everything that you don't want to hear, it happened to them. So now the doll is on display in a museum in Key West. Do we believe in this one? I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical. Annabelle, maybe. Robert? Not as scary. Try again, pal. Fix your name first. Mandy the Haunted Doll. There we go. We got another doll. This one sounds a little bit more frightening. Apparently, the most malicious entities on the planet take the form of a doll. Who knew? Mandy the Doll, remember this name. Mandy lives in the Quesnel Museum in Canada, and the staff at the museum insists that Mandy is kept in a separate display case. Because when Mandy shares a case with other dolls, these other dolls would magically end up being knocked over in the middle of the night. Turns out Mandy loves attention, huh? Staff also reported their lunches disappearing on occasion, but me personally, I think that they're reaching at that point. That's just a greedy coworker who's blaming it on a doll. That's a different thing. That's one guy. You gotta go find him. That's not the doll. Number 3, Pompei artifacts. I love geology and history and all that stuff here on Bumblebee. It's great, but it's hard not to want to bring something home after you visit a famous landmark. But depending where you go, you could get in a lot of trouble for, stealing a rock. Sounds silly, but listen up. Pompei, for example, once a flourishing Roman city located near the Bay of Naples in Italy. That was, of course, until 79 AD when Mount Vesuvius erupted and it buried the entire city and sadly its inhabitants under layers of ash and pumice. Now, the eruption was so powerful that it wiped out all of life within a 16-mile radius. Pompei, of course, remained buried and forgotten for almost 1700 years until it was rediscovered in 1748. Today, Pompei is an archaeological site that offers a glimpse into ancient Roman life with well-preserved ruins of homes, public buildings, streets, artwork, you name it. It's all there. It's great. And there's a great amount of people who steal from this ancient landmark. Because of course there are. How to get cursed 101. This is how you do it. Tourists would steal fragments of monuments, literally pieces of the city, put it in their pocket and go home. But every year, roughly 100 packages get sent back to the archaeological superintendents, and most of them are accompanied with a letter explaining the bad luck that occurred with this piece of rock that they stole. So don't take things that don't belong to you. All right, cheers. Number 2, the Anguished Man. I mean, first of all, aside from its dark history, who would be able to look at this and have this hanging up in their home? This is terrifying. Imagine this on your wall. That's from The Conjuring. That's a horrible thing to look at. I would take that down immediately. The Anguished Man is a painting with history. It is said to be haunted by the spirit of the artist who created it, a man who mixed his own blood into the paint as he worked. Yeah, real artsy guy. I love when people do that. Awesome. Don't do that at all. The painting has been passed down through generations of the artist's family, but each owner has reported strange occurrences while in possession of the haunting piece. Some have claimed to hear whispers and moaning coming from the painting late at night, which is it's pretty scary. It's also kind of funny to imagine a painting just being like, you're like, what was that? That's kind of beautiful. Is that an E minor? Would you spend the night with this haunted painting? I would. I don't know. I'm a skeptic. I would just, again, not look at it. I would hang it up and then turn this way. It's kind of creepy. I don't know if I could do that. Now I get it. No way. Number 1, James Dean's car. Buckle in for this last one, folks. James Dean's love for fast cars was of course well known, and sadly because one of them led to his tragic death at the age of 24. He died by doing something he loved, which is, okay, some silver lining to it. Some are convinced that his cars were cursed the entire time. Dean's first car was involved in an accident that left him with a broken leg, and his second car, the one that he famously died in after colliding head-on with another vehicle, I mean, that's already too many. That's 2 accidents, that's 2 cursed cars. That's tragic history right there, but after Dean's death, that's when the hauntings begin. The Porsche was sold off and quickly became infamous for causing more accidents and more deaths. One of the owners even reported seeing the ghost of James Dean beside them in the passenger seat while they were driving before crashing. I would have crashed too. If I saw any ghost beside me, I'd be like, oh my god, that would be it, no matter what, James Dean or not. The car disappeared from public view in the late 1960s and has since been rumored to be hidden away by collectors who believe it to be cursed. Do you own the car? Is that you out there? Where is this thing hiding? I kind of want to take it for a spin. I don't know, I'm kind of weird like that. Would you drive in this car ever? Me neither.